morning, Houston Pet Set family and friends. We are in the house today with Sunbun and our special guest, Joy Southard from Healing Species, Texas. We're so delighted to have you here today, Joy. And of course, my co-host, Tina Lundquist-Faust from Houston Pet Set, co-president. So we brought Sunny here today as a special guest because Joy and Sunny have a history. They've been working together for quite a few years, along with your daughter, Emily. And so we wanted to share some stories and share kind of what we do when we are out in the field, right, Joy?
Right,
There's a lot of this going on. When you mix your business with animals, sometimes there's a lot of unpredictability.
Yeah,
So
it is.
Joy, tell us a little bit about Healing Species and why you use dogs like Sunny, and just a little bit about your everyday life in the rescue and children world.
Well, yes, and to back up, like what Healing Species does.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such an important service that you provide to the children in our community.
Thank you. And thanks for having us. We are not a rescue group, which is what you guys are so helpful with, all the rescue organizations. But our dogs that we use in our program, they're all rescues. So Healing Species, it's a violence intervention character education program, and it is taught with the assistance of rescued dogs. The dogs accompany all of our instructors into a classroom, and a lesson is taught based on what that dog has experienced. So if we were going to talk about Sunny, we just got down. Sunny comes with us to the Harris County Juvenile Detention Facilities. He's a big hit there. The kids love a pit bull. But more importantly, they love to hear of a story of a dog that has overcome so much, that has gone through some abuse and neglect, which many of them have, and then has persevered and has so much to give. So Sunny's really important to the program, and the kids just adore him. They adore him. So hopefully we're going to get back.
Yes. We can't wait for that. That's one of his favorite days, is to be in that juvenile detention center with those kids. And, I always say he's not a trained dog at all. I just know how to love them. I don't know how to train them. But I think they love that about him. He comes in there, he's bouncy, he has no manners, really, no rules, and he just bounces around, and they love it. They get on the floor with him, and they're hugging him. And one of the components of your program, I think, Joy, is to allow these children to feel again in a safe way. And by bringing these rescue animals in whose stories mimic theirs, they can identify with them a little bit, even if it's on an unconscious, subconscious level, but also they can show something, love and affection, that they might not be able to do with anybody else, because these children did not wind up in these situations for good reasons. Right. They've probably had a very rough beginning. So letting them feel some love, some compassion, some joy,
Yes.
some momentary craziness with some
Laughter,
a
little
flowers.
chaos in a
Yes.
very structured environment. A little chaos is, probably more normal for them than the structure that they've been
Yes.
forced into.
Yes, and we make sure that the dogs that are in our program, a lot of people say, "Oh, are they therapy dogs?" And they're not. They're not certified therapy dogs. We never wanted to have dogs that have to look to us for direction. We need them to be spontaneous with the kids, and the reason we have a rescue dog is because we want the kids to feel something. Just like you nailed it. I mean, we want them to feel something. Many of them, the only emotion they feel is anger, or they're numb, and numbness leads to all sorts of things. So it's very important that the dog has a story. It's very important that he's overcome things, and that translates into teaching a lesson to the children. We can't teach what we teach without the dogs.
Right.
We can't. We're not therapists, and it's not talk therapy, but it's identifying with that dog. Even a dog that if we're going to teach even a lesson on diversity and tolerance, we make sure that the kids understand dogs don't care what the other dog looks like. All they care about is this dog going to be nice to me. And so all of our lessons are going to be focused on this dog and his behavior. So, and I'll back up just a second. The history of the program is kind of important because it was formed, I think we're looking at 17 years ago, by Sherry Thompson, and she was an attorney, defense attorney, criminal defense attorney. And she found that when she interviewed the violent offenders, and these were the folks that had committed what they call depraved heart crimes, they had two things in common. They were abused as children, and they took their first act of abuse out on an animal. So she wanted to build a program that would address the heart of the child. And it may seem sort of hokey when you go into a big detention center of boys and you want them to talk about their hearts. But that's how you break through to get them to understand this is about feeling and this is about empathy. So the program has a basis in criminal justice. And so we work very hard throughout the 14 lessons to get to that point where a child understands that their worth really comes from advocating for another. And that's what these dogs represent. I mean, Sunny represents.
That's such an important point because Sunny's story, which you probably need to tell, is so critical to his being in this environment because he, as you said, had a horrible beginning, beginning.
Well, I think they can identify when we say, I found Sonny on the streets. He was shot, and they all roll out, he's a blue, he's a pit. Do you breed him? And it's an opportunity for us at that point to say, no, we don't need to breed these dogs. If you want a dog like Sonny, there are hundreds of thousands literally in this city. Yeah. So let's rescue because this guy was sad when I found him, and there's a first touch point. Can they identify with sad? Do they dare go there? So he's sad when I found him. He's scared. He's hungry. He is traumatized. These are all things we can say about Sonny that we don't have to say about them, but they might identify with in that really quiet way. And Joy, I am a therapist, and I see what happens, and the lengths that you get to, or the place you get to in 1 to 2 hours with those boys with one dog is worth many therapy sessions because you break through immediately by telling his story and getting them to identify with some of these feelings in a non-threatening way. Right. And that's so important. And you know what? It might teach them just to be nicer to animals. It might teach them just to be nicer to each other. It might teach them it's okay to have these feelings. Right. Sonny was sad. I was sad. And then his big lesson is he had a rough beginning. He was found in a ditch. He was shot. He was homeless. Nobody cared about him. But someone came along, that one person, and 2 people in this case, a whole carload, but 2 people brought him home. And with a little love and a little TLC, now he's a contributing member of society. So you can have a rough beginning, but you don't have to have a rough ending. You don't have to that doesn't have to be your life story. It can be a chapter or 2, and then you can have some good chapters after that. So when we tell Sonny's story, we just pray that they can see that in themselves.
And recognize that they're needed because he's needed. Did he know he would be needed when he was? Oh my gosh. Probably not.
Right. He felt like he was a nuisance.
There you go. Yeah. So we want these kids to understand they're needed, not just to rescue animals. We hope that they're all going to do that one day, but we want them to recognize that they have great worth and they're needed. And another thing that's important with what we teach is this. Is he talking?
Yeah. He wants back in.
He wants back in on his chair. He wants back in on the chair.
I'm ready for my tape, Mr.
Yeah, he's ready.
You ready, Sunbun? Oh, look at him. He's so ready.
Is he ready? Oh, good.
He's waiting for the boys, probably.
He's waiting for the boys. Yeah. Where are the boys? Why aren't they with the boys? That's you. But when you said 2 people came and a carload came, well, you saw him with your heart, and our first lesson is to ask these kids to see with their hearts, not just their eye. I mean, there were a lot of people that probably saw Sonny on the road. Just like, there's a lot of dogs. There's some pretty famous
Right.
ones in Houston now
Yeah.
that walked around, like Gus walked around with his
Yes.
head like that for a month or more. And there's people that saw him with their eyes, but they didn't see him with their heart. So we teach kids it's important, like the kiddo that gets beat up every day. You
Yeah.
make sure that you're seeing him with your heart, not just, and don't feel sorry for him.
Right.
Empathy leads to responsibility. It means you do something about it. So our lessons are, it looks like it's all cute, coming in with a dog, pet the dog, but they're not, they're all very targeted, hard-hitting lessons that address social and emotional learning, which is a big deal now, but 10 years ago when we started, they weren't talking about that. But now they are. So we will continue bringing lots of different dogs in, and I think we added a pup that has, what is it, where their feet are
from being in a
yes,
cage.
yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Not being able to walk.
Yeah. We just added her, and she's going to work the elementary school campuses. I know.
Nice. Joy, when you do this program and you go through the curriculum with the children, is there a way to measure the outcome? Do you have like stories about how the animals have impacted the lives of these kids?
Different facilities or campuses have different ways of measuring. We use the empathy index. That's a test, a pre-test and post-test that we use. And then one of the detention centers uses a resiliency scale. So those are scientific. Those are, weighted post and pre-tests. But then we also go by whatever the campus discipline measurements are, in school suspensions, how many in school suspensions have we reduced? They can even play with academics because it does, our program does get a teacher to say, all right, we talked about so-and-so today. Can we write, can we do a writing exercise on that dog? So we do have for elementary school curriculum, it's aligned with the Texas Essential Elements
So great.
standard.
Once you break down those barriers, those emotional barriers, that numbness, that anger, whatever that might be, you can tap into their cognitive skills and what are they able to do? Because if you're shut down emotionally and socially and spiritually, you're probably not going to be performing at your highest level.
No.
And if you're getting lessons like math, history, science, you're living. I know some of these situations. If you're living with that PTSD, the post-traumatic stress, you're not open to learning. You've got to be able to bring that level down in order to bring up your academic skills a little bit. So, yeah. I just want to point out how valuable these animals are too. This is a dog, as Tina said, was a nuisance on the street. He was shot at. People wanted to get him out of the neighborhood. And now he comes in and we're talking about what he's doing with these kids. And it's not just Sonny, it's all of these rescue dogs have these skills. So here we have this nuisance in Houston. But if we just take a little time and energy, we can take that and make them a valuable part of society. And it really adds, you're helping us add value and show the value of rescue dogs in the community.
Yes.
So we're so grateful for that too.
Well, they are. They are. They're all, and I think there's 110 now in the program.
Wow, Joy.
So,
and they're all rescue dogs.
They're all rescue.
Not one is trained.
Not a
Beautiful.
There's
is that a stipulation? Is that a condition of the program that they are rescued?
They have to be rescued.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they have to be rescued, and we have some that their folks have put them through the therapy dog program. So we have some that do that, but not that many.
Do you have one story that sticks out in your mind about a child with a dog?
I do, and it's probably, because Sonny's here, it's probably going to be an important lesson because it's a pit bull story. And we brought, I don't know if you remember the dog Jagger. Do you remember hearing about Jagger? He was He's a pit bull that was part of a raid, a dog fighting raid that. So he was a fighting dog. He wasn't a bait dog. He was actually a fighting dog, but he looked like a bait dog. But he came into the program, and we took him into. He was at Leadership Academy in one of the Harris County facilities, and it was the lesson on. It was a dog fighting lesson, because we do that in detention. We do make sure they understand that it's a criminal offense, and then we make sure they also understand if they are aware of it happening anywhere, they can call a hotline, and if it leads to arrest, they get money. But this dog, Jagger, he's lost half of his face, so you see his gums and lips and everything, and then he's got cigarette burns all over him. And one of the boys asked and he was one of the boys that really sat back. He didn't communicate much, but he asked prior to us coming if he could have a few minutes with that dog by himself. And the guards allowed that. They allowed him to go into a room with that dog, and he laid on that dog and cried, because he was a dog fighter. He fought dogs. So he was apologizing. He wanted to say he was sorry. And this dog just crawled in his lap. I mean, he was just such a love bug of a dog.
No judgment.
None.
You know, none.
Mm-mm.
And that forgiveness. Is
Yes.
So
that
important.
implied forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And forgive himself.
Forgive himself, right.
To forgive himself as well.
And those moments are pivotal, you know? I mean, that might be the difference in that boy going right or left in his life, you know? You
Yes.
think about this program, Joy, and the difference you've made in how many students have been exposed to this? How many thousands?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands, probably. Yeah.
I mean, what an impact.
Yeah.
What an impact you've made in our community.
Well, what an impact these dogs,
Yeah.
these dogs have made. So we're still always looking for. Now, last year was goofy. We didn't get to do much of it. I was telling Jill, we did online, which was just
like today. Chaos.
Yeah. So we ended up, because Spring asked us to do all their second graders online, and I don't know how many campuses, but so we did a film on every dog that we were going to show. We did their little film and their person telling their story. So that was their film. And then Emily and the other instructors would be at home with what we called the homeroom dog, because we couldn't have that same dog with us all the time. So we had a homeroom dog who'd sit in her lap or get off or fall off the day bed. I mean, it just was, it was different, but we did it.
Yeah, and you're back in the schools this year.
I think we'll
face to face.
We'll be back in
so
detention in
important,
July, so we'll be calling you up.
Great. He's
Yes.
open anytime. I want to point out too that, the way Sunny loves these kids is the way we need to love them as well.
Yes.
Usually this is about animals, but really it's about children too. I mean, in a really big way, it's all of our vulnerable populations that we really need to take care of. And these children were not born bad.
No.
They were not born bad.
No.
These are a lot of times the ones we've been to see are 19 and younger, and
Yes.
they probably have a felony conviction. So they've had some rough times in their short lifespans, and they didn't start out bad. They're a product of their environment, and we have to remember that. I think that it's important in this city, in every city, to break that cycle, and that's what you're doing, Joy. You're doing that with these kids, and you're giving them that second chance at a second chapter like Sunny had,
Yes.
and so many rescue dogs and people
Yes.
watching this who have rescue dogs, that second and third chance is so
It's
important. But these children are so sweet when you get in there,
I
and
know.
just like we were crying just a little bit ago, I walk in and it's hard for me not to cry, because I think of them as victims and not bad
Oh, I
people,
know.
and they're products. And how can we stop this? Stop it at a younger age. Thank God you're doing it now, Joy. But how do we get to them
Right.
sooner too? Because this is our society we're talking about.
Well, and if you look at it in ROI, because we know how much it costs to incarcerate for years or a lifetime after somebody has committed a lot of violent crimes
Right.
and harmed society. But if you can, as you said, prevent that, the ROI on investing in these kids at this age in lieu of as they get older, and that wall becomes higher and higher and
Right.
stronger and harder to break through is critical.
Yeah, it is. And I think the last few years, the education establishments have recognized that. Where, Texas was always very teach the test, teach the test, teach the test. And we had a hard time breaking into schools because we take 40 minutes
Mhm.
of an instructional day once a week.
Mhm.
And we can do it from 8 to 14 lessons, but it was always like, oh, I don't know if we can give you 40 minutes once a week.
Yeah.
But it's starting to, we've had more school districts come around and say, yeah, I mean, as long as they're okay with having dogs in the school, and that's coming around as well. So, yeah, we hope to get, we do all age groups. And I do remember when you guys would come into detention, the kids they're always so polite.
Mhm.
They're really polite, but they're not always polite if you don't have a dog sometimes.
Mhm.
They're not always. It can be because they see an adult coming in, oh, somebody's going to come in and
Right.
tell me how to live again,
Right. But they don't trust authority figures either because they've learned not to. And I've had personal experience with that, having my own children and foster children, and in seeing them targeted because of what they look like or where they're at or who their friends might be or
Right.
might have been. So they don't trust these authority figures, which, coming in, that's what we probably look like. But yeah, that's
With the
yeah,
dog.
with a dog, it breaks all that down.
And the other thing that's important that in our lessons, when we get to probably in the middle, we make sure they understand that there are people that see them. Once again, we're going with the heart. There are people that see them with
Yeah.
their heart. Not everybody is going to,
Absolutely.
So, and our dogs have had to learn that.
Yes.
Our dogs have had to learn there are people that see them with their heart, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of dogs that probably started out, hiding in a corner,
Right.
and it took a while to gain trust and for them to
Mhm.
understand they weren't going to be hurt. So, so much of our lessons are going to align with, how a rescue dog has had to grow.
And I think it's so important that you use pit bulls. And this is kind of pivoting back to animals and rescue animals. But pit bulls get such a bad rap. And because when you get bit by a pit bull, it's a big bite. If you get bit by a chihuahua, it's a bad 10 seconds.
Right.
So pit bulls are so maligned
Yeah.
in our society. And when we go to the shelters and we walk the rows and rows and rows of animals, 50, 60% are pit bulls because people continue to breed them. They, and they're disposable in our society. And so for you to show the value of them
Right.
is so, so important. So
Yeah.
glad that you use them and you are open to that. And it also, I think for a lot of these children, they probably would respond more to a pit bull than they would a well-groomed poodle
Yes.
or a Westie or something like that.
Yes.
It's instant, recognition to something that they've seen before. They can identify more easily with it. It's
It
been
is.
in there. Yeah.
They love this dog,
He loves them. Who doesn't love Sonny?
He's such a goofy little guy. Oh, he wore himself out.
Tired.
That's too cute.
Joy, if people want to help healing species and help you, what's the number one thing? And then we'll get to number 2 and 3. But what's the number one thing that you need help with in order to grow this program? Because I think, honestly, every school needs healing species. Every school needs a you and an Emily and a Sunny in there, whatever it may be, to help kids learn how to read, to bring their fears down, to control ADD, ADHD, to autistic children. We know so many statistics about dogs and but then all the way up to those who find themselves in these detention centers. So what's the number one thing you need help with in order to continue to grow this?
Well, it's kind of tricky because, we have to make a pretty good case when we go in and sell the program, and it
Who do
takes.
you sell to?
Well,
if I
we
can
sell
ask?
to superintendents.
Okay.
We sell to heads of departments at social emotional learning or the counseling department. That's who we sell to. So it's always a district sell. Very rarely is it a campus sell. And then for juvenile detentions, it's county sell. So we the counties. It's just it's a difficult sale, but the people that buy it are brave. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're brave because they're taking a risk. They're taking a risk on a program that isn't science-based. That's everything now is brain science, brain science. This is heart science. This is what I've always felt about it. It's heart science. We always are looking for instructors and new dogs. Always want more instructors and more dogs. That's important. And Emily really pushed me this year. She said she really would like more guys teaching. So we really want more guys to
Such
teach.
a good point.
Your son want to teach?
Yes. Oh, I bet he would.
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea. Talk about identifying, and not breaking down barriers and not having those walls up. Yeah. That's beautiful, Joy. What does it take to become a teacher? Is it a big commitment?
No, because everybody's part-time.
Okay.
Everybody's part-time. So they work, whatever. We keep them on the same project though. So it's a consistency. So if they're going to teach, like we teach and we taught at Freedom Place, the girls, the home for the girls of sex trafficking. And so we had 2 girls that went the whole 14 weeks there because that's they establish a relationship with them. So that's a commitment. You have to be, if you want to just teach one project, you have to do it for 14.
Right.
Are
For 14.
they paid, or is that a volunteer
It's
position?
paid. They're paid. They have to. We have to because it's just
It's too important.
It's too important.
We know.
Agree. Yep.
Yeah, that
Volunteers
is
are wonderful, but
They are.
But when you need somebody and they need to be there and on time, it makes perfect sense. So, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, even our assistants that go with the instructor that bring the dog. Maybe they're the ones that bring the dog. They're paid as well. I mean, that's an important role.
Yes.
Bring the dog. So, it has always. I don't think we've ever done volunteers. People will ask me about.
No. As Tama said, it's too important.
Yeah.
But Healing Species is a nonprofit. Wonderful.
It is. It's a nonprofit.
So you need those people to teach.
Yes.
You need those people. And if someone doesn't have an animal, I will lend Sonny
There you
all
go.
day long.
There you
It's
go.
his favorite thing to do. He's never happier than when he's with a pile of boys and getting love and getting his 80,000th treat that day. His stomach, he comes home, his stomach's always
I know.
big. No, but it's so wonderful. So you need the teachers, the volunteers. And then I know, Joy, as a nonprofit, you always need funding too. So you're on our website, so you can tell us what your website is so people can go directly.
It's just Healing Species Texas. So, and we do write grants. This year we'll probably have to write some more. Getting started. The Katy district is interested now, which was they've never had a dog on their campus ever. So maybe.
Great. Okay. Well, you're also on our website too. So if you want to go to
and thank you for
Houston
your
Pets,
help with us.
Of course.
I mean, we were able to do 2 campuses with what you guys helped us with.
Well, you're talking about children, and the program is for children, but it also speaks to our education component where we know that we cannot solve this crisis of animal overpopulation in Houston until we educate on what good guardianship of an animal looks like. So when you're reaching out to tens of thousands of children, students, people in that age category, and you're teaching them that dogs are good. They're not a nuisance.
Right.
They have feelings. They love. They just want the same thing that the children do, to be hugged and fed. And then that makes our job easier in the long run. We have fewer animals that we'll have to rescue down the road.
Right.
So really the programs feed each other.
Yes.
And that's what we love to see. That's where Houston Pet Set hits its sweet spot, is when we can collaborate and we can do things that are so impactful that we're reaching animals, people, children.
Right.
All of the lessons that you talk about for children apply to humans.
That's why it's called the healing species.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, oh, that, because I didn't make it up. But I thought, I don't know how I feel. It's people still ask, healing species, what is that? Well, it's what it does. I mean, it's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's healed. You know,
Yes.
yes. The children, the animals, we are, our society is, our community is by
Right.
the work you're doing. So
Right.
thank you, Joy.
Well, thank you, guys.
I really
Thank you
can't
so
think
much.
of a more important program for our children and our dogs.
Thanks.
And we're so blessed to know you. I'm blessed to be able to bring Sunny
I know.
in. And thank you from our community to
Thank
you and
you.
your daughter, Emily. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, dude.
I remember when you reached out years ago and we're like, what is healing species? We're so glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. And
That
keep
was
it going and
Good
keep
coffee.
it growing. Yeah, it was
It was
good
good
coffee.
coffee, yes.
When we were officing out of Starbucks.
Yes.
And you walked in with that gorgeous hat. We're like, could she be any more beautiful? And now she's got a pretty hat on. I mean, how do you show up like looking like that? We got dog hair, all of us. It was great.
Well,
Great
thank
meeting.
you all.
Thank you so
Joy.
much, Joy. Okay, and let us know. Sunny is wide open, and anybody out there wanting to volunteer with Joy, contact her and contact
Or
me
work
if you
with
need
Joy.
something.
Not even
Yeah.
volunteer, work with her.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to say volunteer. You will get paid.
You will get
Work
paid.
with her.
You
Yes.
will, yeah, you will
And you
get
know, I
paid.
would think retired teachers might be a good.
I know.
This would be a great thing for them to do. Anybody
know.
retired would be great.
Anybody.
But the
Yeah.
young people and the men too.
Yeah,
Talk
definitely
about
men.
reaching these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Emily's. She said, this year, Mom, we have to get more
We're going to
men.
work on that.
Yeah.
I think about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Joy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Sunbun.
Bye. Hi,
Bye,
Sunbud.
Sonny.
We love you, Sunbud. Sunbud's in the house.